So prepare. You have time to do it. There's a lot of uncertainty with this storm, but the one thing that is certain is we are going to see some impacts.
It looks like Tropical Storm Helene will become a major hurricane very fast before possibly barreling into Florida's west coast. And it's got all the potential of turning into the strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. so far this year. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And hurricane and storm surge warnings of up to 15 feet are already in effect for parts of Florida's west coast. Officials are warning that due to Helene's massive size, impacts are going to be felt far and wide. Now, right now, the tropical storm is moving through the Caribbean, pushing past Mexico and Cuba, but it is the next 24 to 48 hours that will be the most critical as Helene moves into the Gulf of Mexico. This is where it's expected to rapidly intensify to a strong Category 3 hurricane over those very warm waters, a trend that we've been seeing more and more of because of the effects of climate change. Now, since exact landfall is still uncertain, everyone up and down Florida's west coast is urged to be ready. Schools are closing, coastal communities are being evacuated, and support teams as far as California are on their way to help. There's a hospital in Tampa right now putting up these flood barriers called aqua fences designed to protect against 15-foot storm surges, and all of this is happening as some parts of these same areas of Florida are still reeling from Hurricane Debby just last month. Now, if it stays on track, Helene could be the 5th hurricane to make landfall in Florida in just 3 years. And while Helene brews in the Gulf, a different hurricane slammed Mexico's Pacific coast last night. Category 3 Hurricane John killed 2 people, triggered mudslides, toppled trees, and left hundreds of thousands without power. It has since dissipated. Now, we have team coverage tonight. Marissa Parra is standing by in Tampa, Florida. But first, let's go to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what's the latest track showing here?
In from the National Hurricane Center, the 8 p.m. East Coast update, now up to 60-mile-per-hour maximum sustained wind. So we were at 45, and now we went to 50 at 5 p.m., and now in the last 3 hours, we went up to 60. So we're seeing this storm is getting its act together. It's getting stronger. It's getting more well-defined. It's starting to take on more of a classic shape. You can start to see banding features here on some of the thunderstorms, and right near the center, some intense thunderstorms, and the pressure is quickly dropping. The lower the pressure, the stronger the winds get, and then the stronger the storm is. It won't be surprised tomorrow morning you wake up and this is going to be a hurricane somewhere near Cancun, a low end possibly Category 1. And then during the day tomorrow, it will continue to move northwards. It'll begin to strengthen even more. The Hurricane Center, a little after this time tomorrow, has it getting up to about 90 miles per hour. Then during the day Thursday, getting up to a Category 3, paralleling the Florida coast. Notice it is about 50 to maybe as much as 100 miles offshore, which seems kind of safe. But this storm is so huge. This cone just is for the center. This storm is so large that a huge portion of it is going to be over the Florida peninsula, bringing squalls, heavy rain, occasional tropical storm force gusts, and then the storm is going to cruise. I mean, this storm is going to be moving at like 25 miles to 30 miles per hour when it makes landfall. So that's going to, usually they fall apart pretty quickly, but it's going to take a little bit. This storm is going to be so big and going so fast that it's going to be strong all the way through Georgia and back up into the mountains in North Carolina. That's going to be one of the issues, too, as far as the rainfall goes. So obviously where we have that landfall predicted, this Big Bend area, Florida, Cedar Key, south of Tallahassee to Apalachicola, that's where the hurricane warnings are. And tropical storm warnings go all the way in here to areas of Orlando, Tampa, Sarasota. Gadi, this is how big the wind field is at 5 p.m. tomorrow, or Thursday, excuse me. This is about 400 miles across and 400 miles from north to south. Almost the entire Florida peninsula will be in tropical storm conditions as we go throughout Thursday afternoon. We'll update these wind gusts for you. We're getting the new ones in, but it does look like max gusts in Tampa, roughly 50 to 60, up around where landfall is, roughly about 80 to about 110. And the storm surge is going to be a huge issue here, anywhere to the right of the center, up to 15 feet, and even far to the south. Even though we're about 100 miles away from landfall, the Tampa Bay area could get 5 to 8 foot of storm surge. And Gadi, when we look back at the history books in Tampa, their largest ever in the 1800s was around 15 feet. They had another one in 1921 with 11 feet. 1980s, there was one that was right around 6 to 7 feet. Tampa does not have a big history of getting 5 to 8 foot storm surges. And if you know Tampa, it's grown considerably in the last couple of decades. There's going to be, if we get this and this materializes, there's going to be water in places that people have never seen it before, and it's going to be a little surprising to a lot of local residents who haven't been through a storm like this.
Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be a massive one. Bill Cairns, thank you. And speaking of Tampa, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra, who is in Tampa Bay right now. Marissa, I'm not sure if you heard some of that, but what conditions are officials most concerned about right now? It sounds like so much of the focus is on the potential for storm surge, and are people there taking warning seriously?
Very good questions, Gadi. And the storm surge and flooding, that is exactly what we are seeing the most preparation for. And of course, when it comes to preparations, we've all seen the lines at the gas stations and of course the lines at sandbagging stations. But I want to show you something that maybe you haven't seen before. To my right, this is called aqua fence. This is roughly 10 feet tall. This is a barrier that is supposed to protect Tampa General Hospital on the other side of it from the bay, just feet away from us. And we do expect the possibility of a storm surge. This is something that we saw last year with Hurricane Idalia. Aqua fence was here and protected the hospital from exactly that. So this is going to protect the hospital from upwards of 15 feet of storm surge, Gadi. And we had a chance to speak to someone who works at the hospital that brought this here, and he explains why it's so important.
We're a level 1 trauma center on a man-made island in the middle of the bay, and we've been here 100 years almost. So you have to figure out how to protect your patients and keep operating, because there's nowhere else to take this number of critical patients.
So as you just heard him explain, this is the only level 1 trauma center in this entire region, Gadi. But this is just one county. The county that we're in right now, here in Tampa, is just one of 61 counties that have declared a state of emergency, Gadi. There's only 67 counties in the state of Florida, so that's almost the entire state. And then we just heard that the state of Georgia is also declaring a state of emergency. So as we heard Bill Cairns explain, it's not just the places they're in the cone, the direct path of what could be a hurricane making landfall. It's not just the winds that are a big factor here that people need to be aware of. It is the flooding, it is the storm surge. And frankly, you know, what I've seen in a lot of these storm systems, even the tropical depressions, we have seen not just flooding, we have also seen tornadoes develop, tropical twisters. They are fast to develop, and this has been something that has caught people off guard, something I saw even happen in North Carolina, Gadi.
It's fascinating. I mean, just a quick look again behind you. It looks like that is well over 8 feet, possibly 10 feet high, that fence. I can't even imagine how many sandbags and how many man hours it would take to build a berm that high. How high does it go there?
So if I heard you correctly, because I'm having some technical issues, I think you were asking how high aqua fence goes right here. So this goes to about 9 feet, but it does protect to upwards of 15 feet of storm surge. And what was incredible is with Hurricane Idalia last year, we saw it in action because there was flooding. If you have looked at a map of Tampa General Hospital, you will see that this is in a low-lying area. It's on an island of its own. So it is very vulnerable to flooding. We saw this flooding during Hurricane Idalia, but what we also saw is the hospital was able to remain open, tending to the patients who needed attention. They didn't have to move anyone out, and that is directly because of some technology like this, which is relatively new. And of course, you know, we've seen this starting to grow as there's been a lot of success with it. But apparently the person that we just heard from, just so you know, Gadi, they were inspired after they saw it in Europe. So it is relatively new, but they are seeing a lot of success with it.
And here's hoping that new piece of technology out there holds. Marissa Parra, thank you so much. And let's bring in David DiCarlo. He is the Emergency Management Director for Hernando County, which is right above Tampa there. Hernando County is expecting a storm surge even higher, 6 to 10 feet. Parts of the county are under evacuation orders right now. What should people know? Where should they go? And what do they need to bring with them?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Yes, Hernando County is taking this storm very seriously, and our message to the public is they should take it just as serious as we are. Life safety is paramount. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. We are expecting anywhere from 6 to 10 feet of storm surge along our west coast, from Arapica all the way up north to Pine Island. So our message is to be prepared to evacuate. We have a mandatory evacuation order that goes into effect tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We'll have a public shelter open for them. Our message to the public is normally to have a place to go other than a public shelter. A public shelter should be considered a lifeboat, not a love boat. If they have family or friends or other locations they can evacuate to do so, to have a plan, make a kit, stay informed, and get involved. So our message is to the public is to take this storm very seriously. We could experience life-threatening storm surge. We've had 4 sandbag sites opened since yesterday, and we've already distributed about 10,000 sandbags here locally in Hernando County.
Now, besides the evacuation orders and besides the sandbags there, what else is the county doing to prepare?
Well, we have a local state of emergency that's in place. We have called in, essential personnel, extra personnel for the next couple days. Our emergency operations center was at a level 2 activation. We're going to a full activation beginning tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. So all of our emergency support functions throughout the county, there's 20 of those. They're going to be responding to our emergency operations center. And it's going to be a collaborative and collective effort to solve any issues, any problems for the response and recovery to the citizens of Hernando County. Again, our main priority is life safety.
And we heard a little bit from Bill Cairns earlier in the broadcast about some of the historical storm surges in that area. From your perspective, how has Hernando County fared in the past when it comes to storm surge and hurricanes?
Well, we experienced it last year during Idalia. We had anywhere from 6 to 9 feet of storm surge, depending on the topography of the west coast of Hernando County. Some places got a little less, some places got a little more, but on average, we experienced some locations that had 9 feet. It is a life-altering experience to some of these people that live on the coast. Their home is their most expensive investment that they've had. So they want to do everything they can to protect it. So that's when we try to tell people to heed our warnings and evacuate and have a plan and know where you're going to go. Don't make any last minute preps. Start early in the season, not when the storm is right like it is now. It's going to be barreling down on us. So we always emphasize that during the off season, during blue skies, is preparedness.
Yep. Life-saving advice there. David DiCarlo with Hernando County. Thank you so much for joining us. Our thoughts are with you this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's turn now to the Middle East, where airstrikes have been pummeling Lebanon for a second day in a row, once again stoking fears that a bigger war might be on the horizon. One of those strikes coming down in Beirut's suburbs. Israel says it was targeting a senior Hezbollah commander who they claim is now dead. Hezbollah did not immediately comment on that claim. Meanwhile, as thousands flee the bombardment of southern Lebanon, many have been hurt and unable to escape. One woman said the escalation is similar to something that they've experienced before in Lebanon.
أقوى من حرب تموز بس امبارح بلشوا عنا هون يعظموا الأمور نفس الشيء يعني نفس الشيء مش فرقانة معهم لا ولد لا مرة لا زلمة لا كبير لا صغير.
Meanwhile, funerals are being held for those killed in the blasts. The death toll given by the Lebanese officials is more than 550, with roughly 24 of them children. Israel says Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets over the border today, forcing millions into bomb shelters. One of those blasts seen on dash cam video. And while most of these rockets were intercepted, some did make it through. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Beirut. Matt, let's start with these strikes near where you are today. Israel claims they killed a Hezbollah leader. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, this was a strike, the second in 2 days, on a building in the southern neighborhood of Beirut called Dahia. This was a neighborhood nearby called Roberi, and this is a Hezbollah stronghold, and it's been in the crosshairs of the Israelis for quite a long time. And it was the same thing back in 2006, the last time there was a major war that lasted a month.
between the Israelis and Hezbollah. Now, the Israelis say that this leader, who was killed today, and the Hezbollah, by the way, has not confirmed his death, that he was a leader in the division of Hezbollah that was in charge of firing projectiles, missiles, into northern Israel. And they say that he had been promoted recently, basically because other leaders had been assassinated by the Israelis. But there were also reports from Lebanese health authorities that as many as 5 or 6 other people were killed in this blast. The Israelis claim that they killed other senior Hezbollah leaders in this blast as well, and that dozens of people were injured. Gadi?
And Matt, thousands of civilians have been caught in the middle of all this, a lot of them trying to escape. Where are they headed right now?
Yeah, thousands. Well, actually, we heard from a health official, a senior Lebanese official today, who said that there could be as many as 500,000 who have been displaced from southern Lebanon. Most of them are heading here to Beirut or points north of here. They're trying to seek some measure of safety from this continuing huge bombardment against southern Lebanon and against what the Israelis are saying are almost exclusively Hezbollah targets. But the people that we've been hearing from are saying that many, many civilians have been caught in the mix. And you can see from that increasing death toll that there are quite a lot of people who have been killed, more than 550. Just to give you a sense, that's as many people who have been killed in Lebanon in this conflict since October 7th of last year, when this latest round of fighting began. And that's a little less than half the number who were killed back in 2006 during a month of fighting. So this was a very intense last 2 days. Gadi?
Yeah, puts it in perspective there. How big of a fear is there right now that Iran might directly join the fight in the upcoming future here?
Well, this has always been a fear of the Israelis. And if you ask the Israelis, they will say that Iran has already joined, that Iran has been part of this conflict for generations, ever since the formation of Hezbollah back in the early 1980s, because Iran has long been both kind of the lodestar ideologically and spiritually for Hezbollah and its main patron in terms of the money, the arms, the training that it gives to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the main beneficiary among all of the different militant groups that Iran sponsors in the Middle East who are viscerally opposed to Israel, as well as the United States and some of the Sunni Gulf monarchies. Hezbollah is the biggest, the most organized, and has the most sophisticated weapons. So they would say that Iran has already been in the game for a very long time. But we just heard from Axios a report saying, quoting Israeli officials and American officials, saying that Hezbollah actually asked Iran to intervene on their behalf directly against the Israelis, and that Iran refused. But if you remember, Gadi, back in April, there was the first real exchange of fire direct between Israel and Iran, and it really wasn't actually that much. Most of Iran's missiles were shot out of the sky, and Israel's missiles didn't do a whole lot of damage, but they were more pinpoint strikes that hit very strategic facilities. That didn't break out into a wider regional war.
Yeah, important to remember there. Matt Bradley reporting from Beirut. Matt, thank you. And as things continue to escalate in the Middle East, 2 questions that keep popping up is, what exactly is Hezbollah and how did we get here? NBC's Josh Letterman explains in his report.
It's the worst-case scenario the Middle East has feared for nearly a year. Israel's war with Hamas spiraling into a bigger, potentially much more lethal war with Hezbollah, now inching closer to reality. A months-long series of tit-for-tat strikes between Israel and Hezbollah erupting into the worst violence in decades. Israel upping the ante with an unprecedented cloak-and-dagger plot to blow up Hezbollah pagers, U.S. officials say, following it up with days of airstrikes pummeling southern Lebanon, killing well over 500 so far, according to Lebanon's health minister. And Hezbollah retaliating with its own missiles and rockets targeting Israel, civilians on both sides of the border fleeing in fear.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah.
The Lebanese militant group overshadowed by Hamas since the terror attack on Israel on October 7th that set off the Gaza war. But Hezbollah never forgotten by Israel's security establishment, which has always known where the bigger threat lies.
Is Hezbollah a more formidable military foe for Israel than Hamas?
Hezbollah is many times over a more difficult adversary for Israel than Hamas could ever be. There really is no other extremist group in the Middle East that compares to the military capability that Hezbollah possesses.
Hezbollah may be best known in the West as a militia, believed to have a sprawling arsenal of thousands of precision-guided missiles aimed at Israel. But it's much more, the group embedded throughout Lebanese society.
Hezbollah is an international terrorist group. It's also a standing militia that's larger, better armed, better funded than the Lebanese armed forces itself. But it's also a political party in Lebanon where it is not illegal. And it is a social welfare and religious movement that runs hospitals and schools.
The group has its roots in Lebanon's civil war, formed in 1982 to try to push Israel out of southern Lebanon after the IDF invaded. Over the years, Hezbollah has attacked U.S. interests across the Middle East, including car-bombing a U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983, killing 241 Americans, and bombing the U.S. Embassy in Beirut that same year. It's also fought several all-out wars with Israel, most recently in 2006, a battle that killed over 1,000 people. The group, led by a charismatic Muslim cleric, Hassan Nasrallah, who regularly denounces Israel and threatens its annihilation. Hezbollah's name means Party of God, and it's an avowedly Shia Muslim organization, just like its chief sponsor, Iran, Israel's archenemy. The U.S. State Department says Hezbollah gets most of its money, weapons, and training from Iran. Tens of thousands of Israelis who live near Lebanon evacuated after October 7th as Hezbollah rockets rained down, many of them intercepted by Israel. Last year, I joined Israeli troops preparing to shoot back from the dusty fields of northern Israel, where IDF troops wrote sarcastic messages on artillery shells.
They have just 4 minutes to load up the cannon, get the target aimed at the right place, and hit the fire button.
But throughout the fighting, Israel and Hezbollah have stopped just short of all-out war. Now the world is waiting to see whether that patience has finally run out.
Josh Letterman, thank you. And today, world leaders from almost 200 countries are in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. And President Biden gave what's basically a farewell address to those leaders in his last speech to the UN. Now, he touched on everything from climate change, the war in Ukraine, the conflicts in the Middle East, and concerns about China. And he also talked about withdrawing from the presidential election.
I decided after 50 years of public service, it's time for a new generation of leadership to take my nation forward. My fellow leaders, let us never forget, some things are more important than staying in power. It's your people. It's your people that matter the most. Never forget, we are here to serve the people, not the other way around.
Let's bring in NBC's White House correspondent Mike Mimley. Mike, so what were the big takeaways from Biden's speech?
Well, Gadi, this kind of speech is almost, you can think of it like the State of the Union address, but for foreign policy. And the president covered a lot of ground, laid out a lot of the major challenges, and also some of the overlooked challenges that we're dealing with on the world stage right now. But the president really tried to, as an overarching theme, talk about looking back at, as well, his 50 years of public service, to talk about the ways in which engaging in diplomacy, strengthening our alliances, and the use of institutions like the United Nations to try to deal with these problems has been successful in the past and needs to be the roadmap going forward. Now, there is no bigger challenge, though, facing this president and facing so much of the world than what we're seeing in the Middle East, not just the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza, but now the escalating tensions in Lebanon that Josh is talking about. Listen to how the president really tried to talk about what needs to be done in this situation.
Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7th attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible.
Now, the president opened his remarks by talking about what was the major crisis when he first joined the Senate 50 years ago. It was the war in Vietnam. And as sort of a coda, as this is sort of a farewell visit for the United Nations, the president is going to be meeting tomorrow with the new president of Vietnam, highlighting the fact that, yes, this relationship has evolved into a much friendlier place.
Yeah, what a full circle moment. Meanwhile, what was the scene outside of the UN? There were protests there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can imagine the security all around the city is intense, and we did see an area where there is some authorized protest activity. Today, it was all about Iranian Americans protesting the speech from the new president of Iran. These protesters were calling for Iran to not be spending money on weapons of war, but instead to be investing in its people. This is something that we see often on the sidelines around the United Nations. We're going to see a significant demonstration later this week in advance of a speech by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You can expect to see Palestinian organizers protesting the situation there, calling him guilty of genocide.
Mike, I know Meryl Streep was also over at the UN today. It seems like she's also grabbing some headlines with a message about the plight of women in Afghanistan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's right. You see the protests in the streets, but you also see some advocates and, yes, even celebrities come to the UN to try to draw attention to things that aren't necessarily being addressed from the main stage of the UN. And now we're 3 years after the collapse of the government in Afghanistan, the return of the Taliban. And Meryl Streep used some really evocative language to talk about the plight of women there. Take a listen.
And today, in Kabul, a female cat has more freedoms than a woman. A cat may go sit on her front stoop and feel the sun on her face. She may chase a squirrel into the park. A squirrel has more rights than a girl in Afghanistan today because the public parks have been closed to women and girls by the Taliban.
This is frankly something, Gadi, that we're not hearing a lot about from U.S. officials as they look back on the last 4 years of President Biden's time in office, but certainly a headline-making opportunity there to draw attention to a very important issue.
Mike Mimley, thank you. And the Department of Justice is going after credit and debit card giant Visa in this massive antitrust lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit is alleging that the company stifles competition in the debit card market, adding that more than half of the debit transactions in the United States run on Visa's network, allowing them to charge billions in processing fees. Here's Attorney General Merrick Garland.
Visa has unlawfully amassed the power to extract fees that far exceed what it could charge in a competitive market. Merchants and banks pass along those costs to consumers, either by raising prices or reducing quality or service. As a result, Visa's unlawful conduct affects not just the price of one thing, but the price of nearly everything.
And Visa is calling the lawsuit meritless. This lawsuit is the latest by the Biden administration against companies accused of anti-competitive behavior like Live Nation, Apple, Google. Now, don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, there's a strange-looking creature with a name to match the season we are in. What we're learning about this just-discovered species in the Pacific Ocean. Plus, some shocking statistics from NFL players, a jarring new study about CTE, how seemingly common conditions are telling researchers a whole lot. And later this hour, searching for solutions to fight climate change. NBC's Chase Kane takes us inside the effort happening in the middle of Oklahoma oil country. That's all in the future of everything, so stay tuned.
There's this nirvana fallacy where you try to perfect things too much, right? There's no point in doing it unless it's going to be perfect. This is an imperfect solution, but we will continuously chase perfection from here on. But this is also a way to do this big and do this now.
Hey, welcome back. The latest on a controversial execution in Missouri in just a moment. First, here's some of the headlines we're watching tonight. Tonight, a federal grand jury in Florida indicted Ryan Ruth for the attempted assassination of former President Trump last week. He will now remain in federal custody until his trial. Now, this news comes as his son was also arrested today on child pornography charges. Oran Alexander Ruth was arrested this morning following a search of his home over the weekend, where officials say they found phones containing hundreds of files of child sex abuse images and video. And just a few hours ago, former girlfriend of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline Ellison, was sentenced to 2 years behind bars. Prosecutors used the former CEO of the Alameda Research Company as a star witness in Bankman-Fried's trial. She agreed to a plea deal in 2022. Ellison was also ordered to cough up $11 billion, just like her ex, for her role in that massive fraud. And class is back in session for students at Appalachia High School in Georgia nearly 3 weeks after a shooting that killed 2 students and 2 teachers there. They are implementing a phased approach. Students will have half days until October 4th. Then after that, a week-long fall break. They'll return to full school days. And the chief executive of the drug maker Novo Nordisk spent his day on Capitol Hill facing tough questions over the high costs of the company's widely popular weight loss drugs. Senator Bernie Sanders chairs the Senate panel and says Ozempic and Wegovy cost more in the United States than anywhere else in the world. The CEO says the blame is ultimately on the complex U.S. healthcare system, but did agree to meet with pharmacy benefit managers to discuss lowering prices. And the start of fall means the start of spooky season, and things have been getting pretty spooky in the Pacific Ocean. Today, scientists announced they've discovered a new species of ghost shark called the spookfish. They're known for their narrow and long snout that you see there, scale-free skin, and beak-like teeth. Yikes. And in just the last hour, Missouri executed a death row inmate named Marcellus Williams by lethal injection. Now, Williams was put to death over the 1998 murder of newspaper reporter Felicia Gale, and the execution coming hours after the U.S. Supreme Court denied a stay of execution just a day after the state's governor and the Supreme Court both denied clemency to Williams as well. And all this after a prosecutor from the original trial said Williams was innocent, claiming no evidence actually tied him to the crime. Williams' execution was one of 5 scheduled in the course of a week across the country, the first one being Freddie Owens in South Carolina this past Friday. NBC's Yasmin Vasukian has been following this story. Yasmin, can you tell us the latest here?
That's right, Gadi. The third in Missouri this year, the 100th execution in the state since executions were reinstated back in 1989. 5, by the way, in this week alone across the country. We're talking about Missouri, in which Mr. Williams was executed just a couple of hours ago by lethal injection. Alabama as well, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas. The timing of it all, right? You ask, why are all 5 of these executions happening in this week alone? Is really just happenstance in the decision-making process by some of these kind of state Supreme Courts. I will say, though, the argument that was being made by Mr. Williams' attorneys to the Supreme Court to, in fact, stay this execution was waiting to a decision till a decision was made by a similar case as they saw it that was going to be argued in front of the U.S. Supreme Court on October 9th. A statement that was made by the Innocence Project saying this, and I quote, "This closely resembles that of Richard Glossop, who remains on death row in Oklahoma because the state court similarly refused to accept the state's confession of error." If you remember, just yesterday, the state Supreme Court in Missouri essentially did not accept the prosecuting office's admission of possible error in Mr. Williams' case, hence why we are here today. Mr. Williams losing his life to execution by lethal injection just a couple of hours ago amidst a huge week of executions happening, Gadi, across this country.
Yasmin, thank you. And some breaking news we're following this hour. A dangerous chemical leak is forcing evacuations in Ohio. Now, officials say another train car released styrene gas through an open valve earlier today in Whitewater Township. That's located outside of Cincinnati. Officials are worried that these chemicals could cause an explosion, so evacuation orders are in effect for a half-a-mile radius, but no word on how long it's going to take to contain that situation there. And coming up, a bombshell revelation from a football icon. What Brett Favre is saying about his health and how it came to light in front of Congress today. But first, you gotta see this. A couple in Sierra Madre, California discovered they have a new roommate, and that roommate is a massive black bear that moved into a crawl space underneath their house. The bear, who they've named Junior, was caught on video casually strolling down the sidewalk. The couple says he didn't bother anyone. No, their only complaint was his piles of like bear poop in their yard. But other than that, they found him totally bearable. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. Former football star Brett Favre stuns Congress with his health condition. That story is coming up. But first, here's some of the stories happening out west that we're following right now. Almost a week after the second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, another man in Idaho was charged with threatening to kill the former president. Court documents say Warren Jones' crazy bull called Mar-a-Lago at least 9 times, threatening Trump's life. Mar-a-Lago security contacted Secret Service about the calls, and they were able to find Crazy Bull and interview him, and they deemed him a threat. That trial is set for late October. And in Tempe, Arizona, the outside of a Democratic campaign office was shot at. Authorities say that despite damaging some windows and doors there, no one was inside the office at the time and no one was hurt. And here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Phone-Free School Act, which would require schools in the state to implement a cell phone restriction policy by July 1st, 2026. Now, the bill makes California the 5th state in the country to adopt a cell phone ban. And quite the revelation during testimony on Capitol Hill today. Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre revealed that he was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and did so while being grilled over an $8 million welfare scandal. Now, Favre was testifying in front of the House Ways and Means Committee after being accused of ending up with a bunch of taxpayer money that was supposed to go to needy families as part of the TANF program. And the NFL player has not been criminally charged and is repaying some of that money, but he's saying he did nothing wrong. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian has more.
Gadi, Brett Favre was called to Capitol Hill as a witness in a hearing about how states spend welfare money, but he dropped a bomb at the beginning of the hearing when he disclosed that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And that's a huge deal, obviously, because this is a man who played in the NFL for 20 years, took a lot of hits, had some concussions, and this diagnosis renews the spotlight on the dangers of pro football and on head injuries. But what it also did was it cast a bit of a pall over this hearing, which was designed to probe in part what happened in Mississippi, where the state auditor said that $70 million in welfare money intended for poor women and children, was misspent, and some millions of those dollars involved Brett Favre. He was paid $1.1 million directly to give speeches that the auditor said he never gave. He's paid that money back, but he also steered millions of dollars to a volleyball facility, this is all according to court records, where his daughter was playing the sport at a college that he also attended. And he steered another several million dollars to a drug company called Prevacus, in which he was an investor. Now, the state of Mississippi said all of that was improper. They're suing Brett Favre. Brett Favre today said that he was a victim in this, that he did nothing wrong, that he never knew that this was welfare money. At one point, he even said he didn't recall whether it was public money. But of course, there is an extensive record, Gadi. There are text messages from Favre to state officials that made it clear he did know it was taxpayer money. At one point, he even inquired about whether the media would find out that he was paid by the state. But at today's hearing, he wasn't really asked many hard questions. The Republican lawmakers treated him as a hero and kind of a person there to talk about how they could reform the welfare system. Some Democrats asked him tough questions, but they didn't appear to really know the ins and the outs of the Mississippi welfare scandal. So he didn't really have much to say at this hearing today, except that he is in favor of reforming the system of welfare money that allows states to essentially spend it any way they want. And in Mississippi, only 4% of the people who qualify for welfare, poor women and children, actually get it, according to the testimony at today's hearing. There's a lot of legislation that's pending that would change some of this. So far, none of it has passed. Gadi, back to you.
Ken Delanian. Ken, thank you. And speaking of the NFL, there's a new study from Harvard University and Mass General Brigham that found that some shocking stats from former NFL players. This says that over 2,000 NFL players, former NFL players, were surveyed, and at least 1/3 think they are suffering from the degenerative brain disease known as CTE. And those surveyed who think they have CTE reported high rates of cognitive problems, depression, suicidal tendencies. But the study also found that treating conditions like low testosterone and chronic pain might actually improve the players' outcomes. Let's bring in NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal. Dr. Syal, such an illuminating study here, but the thing that caught my eye was the fact that they say that the only way to diagnose CTE for sure is post-mortem, after death. Why?
So Gadi, it's a great question, and there's no single test that definitively says, you know, we can put you in the scan, and if it lights up, you have CTE. And so a little bit of a history lesson, but you know, back then Alzheimer's disease was also the same thing. You know, the only way to really diagnose it was to look under a microscope after somebody had passed away. I mean, you know, our tests have gotten better, and Alzheimer's we've been able to diagnose now before somebody can pass. And the same is really, we're hoping for CTE. You know, there's no gold standard test, but researchers are actively working on a way. You know, can we pinpoint these symptoms you're having combined with repeated head traumas You know, a big question we get, oftentimes is if you have one head trauma or one concussion, are you at risk? And it's really the multiple events over a series of time that increase your risk. And so if we can take all these factors, can we give somebody a diagnosis before it's too late, before we can maybe help them out a little bit?
And what are the symptoms of CTE?
And so there's no, with CTE, it's kind of similar to a lot of other brain injuries, and where you can have, memory problems, you can have impulsivity, you can have, problems with attention, you can have, Parkinsonism, which is like a tremor in your hand, and other features. But there's no sort of one hallmark gold standard symptom that if you have this, you for sure have CTE. So it can be hard to diagnose, right? That, people can get misdiagnosed as having other things, and in reality, it could be CTE as a result of repeated head traumas over the years.
In a study of 2,000, and a third of them saying that they may have CTE. I mean, that is such a huge red flag. Does that number seem accurate, or could there be even more?
I think it's going to be higher. Wow. And the reason I say this, Gadi, there was a study in 2017, where they took 111 brains, NFL players, and they put them under a microscope, and all but 110 of the 111 people had evidence of CTE.
Wow.
So certainly a lot higher than the third that we heard in this study, but unfortunately, really the only way to tell for sure is a biopsy or is an autopsy after somebody passes.
And we've started to see the NFL using Guardian caps. I mean, are these pretty effective?
The company says so. The jury's out. They do say that the risk of concussions is down 50% when somebody uses this. But what's really not clear is if the risk of concussions is lower, does that necessarily translate to less risk of CTE? And people often confuse head injuries with head or brain injuries, right? And so if you can prevent somebody from getting like a scalp laceration, meaning a cut to their scalp or problems there, is that the same thing as preventing brain damage?
Right.
In the form of a concussion, in the form of repeated head traumas, maybe even causing CTE. That it's still too early to tell, but I mean, certainly a positive and welcome step here. And I'm really glad to see, a lot of players in the NFL are actually embracing this. Matt Stafford here in LA, a big one of that.
Right. Yeah. More research on this can't come soon enough. Dr. Akshay, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
And an NBC News exclusive, Lester Holt sits down with family members of those still being held hostage in Gaza, their fears as we approach the 1-year mark since the abductions.
And they're just waiting. What will be the next thing the Hamas terrorists will do to them? If they're going to rape them again, starve them again, hit them again, shout them again? And that's their conditions, just waiting. I was there in those same conditions, and I thought that I'm going to die all the time.
Let's take a quick look around the world. In Switzerland, police have detained several people after a 64-year-old woman died using a controversial suicide capsule. Now, that device, developed by Exit International, injects nitrogen gas to induce a, quote, peaceful death. Swedish authorities are investigating possible legal violations surrounding that death. And Ukrainian President Zelensky is calling on world leaders to, quote, stop the terror after Russian airstrikes in Kharkiv killed 3 people and hurt 21 others. Zelensky says Russia is deliberately targeting ordinary life as he made his plea while attending the UN General Assembly in New York. And India has reported its first case of the Mpox variant. The 38-year-old man there tested positive after returning from Dubai, and authorities are monitoring the 66 people he had contact with. Thankfully, none have shown any symptoms. And China launched 8 satellites from a sea platform using its 4th 3 rocket, Jialong 3. The launch video showcased impressive scenes as that rocket lifted off from a sea platform on Monday. This launch is part of Chinese space programs, which include plans for over 20 more launches this year, including missions to China's space station. And turning now back to the crisis in the Middle East, with the region on the brink of war and Israel's focus shifting to Lebanon, some people are worried it might impact the release of hostages still in Gaza. NBC's Lester Holt checked in with some of the families of those hostages to see how they're doing.
It's been nearly a year now since we first saw their faces, those kidnapped by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, including the families of these Americans who we spoke to today.
Are you fearful that the world's attention is shifting away from Gaza and the hostages?
We're here today, again, to appeal to the people of the world that are failing to see who are the innocents here. You know, the innocents are our loved ones and the citizens of Gaza and the region that just want de-escalation and just want the war to end, and that should start with the release of the hostages.
We've been speaking with these families since their nightmare began. But this is our first conversation with Aviva Siegel. She was a hostage herself, freed last year. But her husband, Keith, is still being held.
Keith and the hostages are thrown underneath the ground on a filthy, dirty mattress with no human rights. They're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to move. It's dark there. They've got no oxygen. But for us, worrying about them, and me, sick to my stomach, worried about Keith and the hostages, because they're there and they're just waiting. What will be the next thing the Hamas terrorists will do to them? If they're going to rape them again, starve them again, hit them again. I was there in those same conditions, and I thought that I'm going to die all the time.
It's hard to hear these stories. And Yael, what is it like to hear these stories for you?
Yael's 20-year-old son, Idan, was also kidnapped.
It's very hard stories to hear. Like, I'm worried sick for the well-being of Idan. Every time that I'm meeting Aviva, I'm giving her like the biggest hug that I can, and I'm feeling like I'm hugging Idan, because to see her, it's a miracle for me. She's like an angel.
Mika is Idan's sister.
It was so surreal, like texting and talking to Idan like 2 days before, and then hearing on October 7th that I was just not gonna be talking to him, and now it's been a year. So it's been like a year that like my best friend like that I was growing up with has just been like gone from my life. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's been very difficult.
And Aviva, at the same time, looking at you here, it is a sign of hope that it is possible.
It's a sign of hope, but I want to tell you that I look strong, but I'm broken up into pieces. For all the families and the hostages that are there, I'm going to scream as much as I can until they come back.
How would you describe this past year?
We simply just miss them so deeply, so deeply. My sister and her husband's bodies are being held as bargaining chips still in Gaza.
We cannot do anything besides trying to think how to get back Itai home. And no joy in our life.
The group has met frequently with Biden administration officials.
Is there a deal to be done, perhaps between just the U.S., an independent deal? Is that doable?
I believe that the administration needs to look at all of its basic assumptions, reevaluate them each day all over again, and see what is the best way to get its citizens out, that the U.S. has an obligation to get them out of harm's way.
Governments at this point, in order to end the madness, have to be willing to get out of their comfort zones to press Hamas first and foremost.
1 year on, it's almost too much to bear.
Lester, walking up here from the train this morning, a person saw my shirt and kind of threw haphazardly, "Do you really think there's anyone alive there?" And I told him, "Yes, I do. It's my son there." "What do you mean?" "Yes, my son is there." Can you imagine what a nightmare it is to wake up every morning and not know if your child is alive, to know that they're in this horrible conditions for almost a year now, and that their life is at stake every single day?
Powerful reporting, Lester Holt. Thank you. Before we go, it is time for the future of everything out of thin air. We're going to take you inside the effort in the heart of oil country to pull carbon dioxide right out of the atmosphere. The hopes that it can have serious impact on fighting climate change. That's all coming up in the future of the environment, so stay tuned. And tonight in the future of everything, we are talking climate solutions and specifically capturing carbon dioxide. There's this one U.S. company that says it has developed a much cheaper way to do it. And in fact, that Oklahoma plant says they will be pulling 5,000 tons of carbon dioxide from the air every single year. National climate reporter Chase Kane explains how it works and how big that impact could be.
In the heart of oil country, signs of transition are all around. It might look like a gravel parking lot right now, but once Heimdall covers the ground in these small white pellets, they'll absorb carbon dioxide as wind blows over them.
It sounds simple, and maybe people are like, okay, what's the catch?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that too. What is the catch? Calcium looping has been known for a long time.
Calcium looping involves limestone, a common type of rock humans have been using since 9000 BC.
So here's how it can be applied to carbon capture. You start with limestone, which is mostly calcium carbonate. They heat it up to remove the carbon and add water, and then you've got calcium hydroxide, which looks like this. It's also known as slaked lime, and from Heimdall, looks like this, like these white pellets. And when these are exposed to the air, a natural reaction takes place with that calcium hydroxide. It's pulling carbon dioxide out of the air, combining and essentially recreating that calcium carbonate that you started with. So then they can heat this back up, pull out the carbon dioxide, and start the process all over again.
The catch to it is that
Susan Brantley is a geochemist at Penn State University and explained that this process requires energy. In this case, Heimdall's using fossil gas instead of wind or solar.
making the grains that they put out, that costs energy. Burning off the CO2, that costs energy. And then, getting the CO2 down into the ground costs energy. So basically, it's a tax, on the whole process that's producing the CO2 in the first place.
It is energy intensive, but those combustion gases will be sequestered, but it's a good starting point. I like psychology a lot, and there's this nirvana fallacy where you try to perfect things too much, right? There's no point in doing it unless it's going to be perfect. This is an imperfect solution, but we will continuously chase perfection from here on. But this is also a way to do this big and do this now. That's the point.
The latest United Nations climate report underscores that carbon capture is necessary to quickly address climate change. And that's part of why Heimdall started capturing carbon while still waiting for EPA approval to store that carbon dioxide deep underground.
That's a very important point, is this isn't optional. CO2 emissions have a price. What matters is that ultimately there needs to be some economic value to removing CO2.
And if all proves successful, the company's founder says the potential here might sound almost too good to be true.
So for a billion tons of CO2 per year, say, which is on the lower end of what the IPCC estimates the climate system is going to need of carbon removal, we're talking, 1 million acres. That is less than 0.1% of the state of Texas. So we can literally completely undo the damage that has been caused in the last few centuries of industrial revolution.
Huh. So not perfect, but scalable, right? Chase Kane joins us now. A lot to process there, but how scalable is this?
I mean, in theory, Gadi, you can do this with as much land as you have, right? It's really just a matter of being able to kind of process those limestone rocks, essentially, put them back through a kiln. Actually, that facility in Oklahoma says their limit is actually the kiln capacity of the ability to kind of remove the carbon from those limestone rocks. So in theory, if you had 1 million acres of land, you could do this on 1 million acres.
And once that carbon is captured, what happens next?
So this is the part that is still very early. We mentioned that they're going to inject it deep underground, but they're waiting on EPA permits. So the idea is that you actually take this carbon dioxide and you inject it back thousands of meters underground into some of the same geologic formations where oil and gas comes from in the first place. And interestingly, the USGS says that they believe the capacity for us to sequester 560 years worth of emissions for the United States in geologic formations underground. So once they perfect the ability to do that, there's a lot of potential there.
Wow, a lot to watch for. Chase Kane, thank you so much. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.